All right, so I got this question maybe a little bit ago, and so I wrote it down because it's easier for me to sometimes write it down so I don't forget. Um, and I still ended up forgetting about it, but I remember writing this question down and something I was going to touch on because I think the Tacoma Town Center is going to pretty much address it. But the question was, in terms of downtown, this person sent me a email and they said, they now live in downtown Tacoma and they like living down there. However, a grocery store is something that is critically needed. Yes, there is a grocery store over in Stadium, but to be honest with you, it is kind of not downtown. And so they wanted to know, what are my thoughts about this? Do you think that will ever change? Et cetera, et cetera. Now, this is a great question because Matt Driscoll, I think that's his name, here in Tacoma, he's a local journalist, and he's doing this series about different topics in Tacoma, and one of them is a downtown grocery store. And he spoke to a lady that I don't know what her title is, but she was some sort of official, and so he was asking her, that question because we did have a IGA grocery store downtown about a year or so before we moved here, and it closed. And so the demand was not there. And so pretty much the question is that it's been tried and attempted a few times. It hasn't worked. Why do we think that's the case? Now, put this into perspective. Downtown Seattle does obviously have grocery stores. They have Whole Foods and all that stuff, right? It makes sense though, because downtown Seattle has a large population, daytime working population, and an all-time population of people who live there, as well, excuse me, as well as tourists. Now, keep in mind, it has a Target, which is one of their spiffy, cool Targets downtown. And that Target also has kind of a limited grocery section, but still a person can go in there and get something, toilet paper at least. But Tacoma doesn't have that unless you're going to go all the way over into the Stadium District. Now, granted, once the Link Light Rail expansion is complete, it will make it a lot easier to get, because I understand what this person's saying. They don't have a car. They literally work and live downtown Tacoma. And that's great because I think the city wants more people like that. But this individual doesn't have a car. It's kind of difficult to go all the way to the Stadium District and come back. You would have to either have someone drop you off there, an Uber or something, to get you over there or take the bus. And that's just a hassle. So I get what they're saying. They're talking about the downtown core. And I mentioned this before, and someone said, the stadium. The stadium district is not ideal in terms of most people who are living right in downtown. Keep in mind, you have the Dome district as well as the Brewery district, as well as downtown. Now, generally speaking, all of this is technically going to be downtown. When I talk about downtown, I'm talking tall buildings. And so that's a huge area on top of the fact that you have University of Washington Tacoma students. That's a big area that does not have a grocery store. And Stadium is on the other side of that, right? So it really is a problem. Now, of course, downtown Seattle has several grocery stores, and even Bellevue, Washington, smaller city, but it has a lot of grocery stores. And so the lady that, Matt was talking to said there's a lot of factors. Population is one, people living downtown, but also there are other factors. And she just, didn't really want to go into it. But the other factors are economics. They want to make sure that you obviously have people who can afford to shop several times a week. Return shoppers, not people who, it's a pit stop and they're on their way. But they're talking about people who do their grocery shopping like Noelle does. Noelle goes to, now, if we live downtown, you could probably support a grocery store because Noelle goes to the grocery store like all the time. But what they're talking about is that that's the problem, is that there's not enough people downtown who live there. They're going to be constantly going into the grocery store making purchases. Now, this was a few years back when we had IGA. A lot of things have changed. A lot of projects are coming online. When you look at The Tacoma Town Center, for example, there's going to be hundreds of units there. The Dome District, there are already units going up, and there's going to be hundreds of units there. The Brewery District, that none of that existed in terms of brewery blocks. That didn't exist at the time when the IGA was going in. There's more construction going on downtown in terms of projects that are going to be adding thousands of units downtown. Now, do I think that downtown Tacoma could support a grocery store today? Yes, I do. And the reason why I say yes, it can is because downtown Albuquerque, which has very little downtown population, very little, downtown Albuquerque has a grocery store. And if downtown Albuquerque can support a grocery store, downtown Tacoma for sure can support a grocery store. There are more people working in downtown Tacoma than Albuquerque. There are more people living in downtown Tacoma versus Albuquerque. And there are more tourists who are in downtown Tacoma versus Albuquerque. These are facts. So could it support it? Yes. Where the difference is that real estate is very expensive. It goes right back to that point. Grocery stores are barely making above the margin, right? So they're barely turning a profit typically. And so you really have to be careful. But when you throw in the fact that real estate can become very, very, very pricey, you need to have an overkill of people coming in and shopping. And so Bellevue, while it is smaller, it does have a significant population that lives downtown. And those people who live downtown have a lot of money. Typically, Bellevue, if you're living there and you're not someone that's been there for the last 30 years, if you're more new, typically people have to have quite a bit of an income in order to live there. So it makes sense. And given all of the development going on in downtown Bellevue, from residential to office, yeah, it makes sense, right? I remember I would go grocery shopping. Noelle would do this too. And we would go grocery shopping and put it in our car. It would be stuff that wouldn't be perishable, but we would go and, pick some stuff up like on our lunch break, put it in the car and go back to work. Because then you don't have to worry about, when you get out of work, I got to go and, grocery shop. And you don't have to worry about that. But Tacoma does not have what Bellevue has. We don't have 40-story buildings where people have, $800,000 condos. You know what I mean? We don't have that. Bellevue does. We don't have Amazon and its 15,000 employees. Bellevue's getting there because, Amazon's proposing that. But we don't have all of those big companies that are there. But Bellevue does. So Tacoma has to grow much more organically, and that requires a lot of housing. There's a lot of promise. There's a lot of things going up currently. If you look at, for example, the old City Hall, that's going to have a lot of units, micro units that are going to be there. If you look at Market Street, Cause Development has put in quite a few apartments there that support a pretty decent size population. There's another building downtown, I forget the name, but it's going to be knocked down soon, right in the core of downtown. There's going to be a mid-rise going up. Dome District, there's projects going on there. I've already mentioned brewery blocks in the Tacoma Town Center. Now, where could a grocery store fit? There's many places. Now, the Town Center has mentioned that they want to either put a grocery store and or a movie theater. Here's my hope, is that the Tacoma Town Center, their second project they're building is that big, large retail block. I think what they're looking at is population numbers. Now, these are the foreign developers tend to take a lot more risk, I feel, than local or national developers. And so when you look at the big hotel that was put up, that's a foreign investor. The town center, foreign investor. I think that they're willing to take more of a risk. And so I think a grocery store is something that they probably would push for. Now, there are a lot of examples of smaller style grocery stores that would fit and make sense. I'm not saying putting a Whole Foods down there, but I think that something that is kind of like an IGA style would definitely work, or a Safeway. I don't know if Safeway would even consider it. But it would make a lot of sense given the population growth and also the pledged development. Keep in mind, there's also a what's it called? There's an old bank building downtown, fairly tall building. I'd say 20 stories, something like that. That they're actually redoing and turning all of that into apartments. So we're talking a huge chunk of people right there too. So downtown is getting loads and loads and loads of people that will be moving there very shortly. But it's not quite where it needs to be to support it. What I also think is missing too when we talk about the town center is they gave an either or. Either it's a grocery store or it's a movie theater. Now, Marcus Theaters have actually came into town and they're building a theater over at the Tacoma Mall. And I think it would be wise if they also built a small, they also have it where they have like a restaurant style setup too, where it basically shows movies as well. And it's a much smaller format. It's not the big giant, 20 screen type deal, but it's a lot smaller, maybe hold 8 screens or whatnot. Do I think that downtown Tacoma could support a movie theater? Yes. We already have the Grand Cinema, which is like a 3-screener, I believe. But do I think that downtown Tacoma could support a movie theater? Yes. I go back to Albuquerque. Albuquerque, New Mexico has a downtown movie theater currently, and it does fairly well. If downtown Albuquerque can support a movie theater and a grocery store, then downtown Tacoma can as well. And I say that because even though Albuquerque has a population of 500,000 and Tacoma has basically 250,000 people, or much less than that, it's got about 200,000. Downtown has more people here versus, say, Albuquerque. Now, you're going to say probably University of New Mexico is close by, so they're pulling a lot of their students possibly into downtown. That could be a factor. But also keep in mind, we have a much greater populace just in that small area, and we also have the University of Washington, Tacoma. Yes, it's much smaller, by far. But to me, that's not enough reason to say that the city couldn't support it. I think downtown could. So I guess my big thing is that there's not enough incentive yet for developers or for these different companies to come in yet. Do I think it will happen? Yeah, I think it will. I think it's a matter of time before we start to see some of these things sprout up. Now, there has been rumor that this is going to happen in terms of a grocery store. There's been rumor of that. Whether or not that happens, not really sure. But I think as more companies and things like that start to go downtown and more residential spaces going downtown, I think that probably that could happen. Again, the Tacoma Town Center, I think, is going to be our best hope, to be honest with you, because it's a new project, new building. It's going to have a lot of other businesses right there too, housing right up directly above it. So I think all of that combined will probably be a big enough lure to get a grocery store. So to answer your question, yes, I do think that we can definitely support it. I think it's just a matter of getting the correct company in at the right time that's willing to take a chance on downtown Tacoma. There's still a lot of stigma. Anyhow, hope I answered your question. I know that was a long tangent. We are on Discord. I'm going to include a link down below that talks about our Discord channel. You can go there and pretty much see a lot of the videos that I've posted, the last 3 videos. Obviously, you guys have seen those, but it's great for open discussion. I have my Discord up all the time, so you're able to actually go and log on to that. You can type whatever you want as long as you follow the rules. We do have a rules section. So you want to make sure you follow that, but you definitely can post questions, chit chat back and forth. It's a big, huge open format. It's pretty cool. So I will include that link down below. There will be a video later that talks more in detail about why we're doing Discord. But anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.